This is, well, this is the tail end of BvB, which is a base versus base battle between the two Star Sonata teams, Star Revolution X and Eminence Front, in the galaxy Leo, located here. This is Eminence Front's territory, and this is Star Revolution X's territory. These are two gigantic teams with tons of resources and assets on each side, fighting over one small system. I'm located in the United States. I live in San Antonio. The server to this game, Star Sonata, is located in, I don't know where it's located, but it's somewhere in the United States, either like Chicago or California. And as you can see in the bottom right hand of the screen, there is, my ping is 220 in the United States. 220 is the ping for someone in Australia normally connecting to a game that is based in the United States. You can see my frames per second is holding steady at 7.5. Normally this computer, which is 32 gigs RAM, 8 gig card, and a modern processor, would get about 200 frames. So this is a gigantic hit on the system. BvB, well, base versus base, or BvB, is essentially deploying these massive star stations or space stations. These things here, these red things, these are one of the major types of star stations. And using them as a form of castle, so to speak, to fight other castles. The best way to kind of put it is, if anyone's played Age of Empires 2, you deploy a castle or a crepe post or a series of towers, and these bases, these stations, represent them. The players, which there are many, they're all dead, because this is basically a battle of the juggernauts, essentially represent a militia or man-at-arms type unit underneath an Imperial Age fully upgraded castle. As such, the castle pretty much ignores the little units and just simply targets other castles. And this huge stream of particles is the pulse guns, basically projectile weapons, that these stations are using against the enemy stations. There are some red pulses coming out and attacking Eminence Front's bases, which are, Eminence Front is the attacker and is coming from the right side over to the left side, where Star Revolution X has deployed the defenses. The huge volume of fire is overpowering the defenses. This is the tail end of the battle. The battle has already been going on for 4 or so hours as players set up the stations and commence the battle. There are currently, ignoring the AI base, the AI station, which is a neutral AI station, there are 163 stations in this galaxy. Now, because my frames is really bad and my server delay is terrible, I'm going to attempt to move my ship, which is this tiny little light fighter located in the center of my screen. I'm a neutral party, so I do not have hostility to either side. So I'm going, yeah, you can tell the terrible frames. But these are all the Eminence front stations. There's a line, or there used to be a line, of tank stations in front because this is a two-dimensional game, two-dimensional gameplay, two-dimensional field. I'm just using the orthographics. Uh, yeah, I'm just using orthographics mode to get an overhead view. This is what I'm mostly. This is what I'm used to, and yeah. So this setup, there's a series of tank stations, which are these red guys, purely red ones, red stations with red glows. All they're supposed to do is tank damage. These slightly smaller red stations with green glows are the damage kits. And then back here, there's a second set of red stations with red glows. They are, the term is healing. Shield transference kits, station kits. And essentially, that's just a ridiculous number of lag-inducing stations. The client there's so many particles on screen, so many things going on that the game client, has kind of bugged out. It's trying its level best to keep going. And it's just terrible. Yeah, you can see the dead stations have just popped up. That's how many particles are going on. Back here, there are players attempting to assist their teammates using tractor beam ships, which are used to yank opposing players into the death stream. That's the best way to put it. It's like a continuous Death Star laser. As well as secondary duties moving the stations around slowly, because they're essentially dragging a castle with a rope. It works very well on players. The ships does not work very well on castles. And it looks like Star Revolution X is losing. Well, actually, it's pretty obvious that they're losing. Their main defensive line has been destroyed already. And yeah, I don't. Technically, this game has sound. Most players do not use sound, especially in this scenario, this situation. Like the sound would just get unreal. You have to take my word for it. The sound would just get completely unreal and completely just, like ridiculous. Everything about this is ridiculous. This is essentially like throwing 100 superstar destroyers at another 100 superstar destroyers, and the players are individual TIE fighters, not the smaller star destroyers, not the smaller warships, but the TIE fighters. And this is just utterly ridiculous. It's stupid. It's like, wow. So, as an outsider watching the battle, Star Revolution X is definitely losing. Their main defensive line, which was somewhere around here in the shape of a star, has failed and was destroyed. They have a few defensive drones, including a warp beacon, and it's just a matter of time before the huge volume of fire just comes in and takes this base out. It's currently bouncing all over the place. This little bar is a shield bar, and you can see this drops down, then the shield transference kits kick in and keep it alive. As soon as it dies, everything else dies, basically. Looking through event chat basically shows all the people that have been dying to whoever. Now you can't see it, but these capital ships, like Hell's Beagles, whatever name that is, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. They're firing a weapon that is essentially a debuff weapon. It injects a parasite onto the target base. The parasite only works on bases, and it debuffs them, reduces damage and shield regeneration by 20%. You can't see it, the particles for those weapons, because the ridiculous particle lag, but they're there, and they are quite effective. Now, I'm not sure you can see it, but the bases, the healer bases, some of them are about 70%, others are higher than 70%. The hope is to drain the healer bases, the shield transference or repair bases, enough where they won't try to heal the base that's getting attacked out in front. Which they're slowly going down. On this level of battle, essentially, it's just like there's no strategy. There's no real strategy here. It's just pure attrition. There is some strategy, like the setup of the stations, but for the most part, there's been no strategy past when the stations were set up. We're going to keep the recording going until at least the front station is destroyed. That might take some time, may not. Oh, Sing Sphere. A Singularity Sphere is a heavy lift ship. Most ships have somewhere between 2,000, 3,000 space, 1,000, like 1,500 space to about 3,000 space. which is the inventory units for this game. Singularity spheres are these massive, they're not really that big in terms of physical size, but they have massive inventories on the level of millions, with the average singularity sphere having about 3.5 million hull space. The average ship has about 3,500 hull space, so you can see what's going on there. Said sphere would be used to carry essentially an entire campaign worth of supplies, and one out in the open like that is pretty bold of them. Yeah, there's probably not much more I can talk about or cover or say or show. Recording off.